Hello everyone, I thought I'd try a little something different and show you my loadouts that I use when I take my discs with me. But before we do that, I want to show you a little bit about the room that I've got here, how I've got it set up for disc golf, from the collection of discs that I have here right off camera to that behind me. So now let's go ahead and take a look at my room, and then we'll go take a look at my bags and how they're loaded up. Hello everyone, I'm going to give you a brief tour of my room before I talk about my adventure bag loadout. As you can tell, here's 4 discs I currently do not use on display. Above that are a couple mini disc golf baskets that I received for one for Christmas and one for another occasion. But this is generally my side of the bed, and some of the things that I keep for my own personal use are here, including like my little tablet and some of the little dolls, or whatever these little things are called, that my daughters gave me. And my current desk setup starts with the notebook here, cable modem / router that I use, 4K television up here, my triple monitor setup, my keys and wallet and smartphone and stuff here. And now I'm going to show you more of the area where I keep my disc. This is my entire disc collection here, aside from the 4 on display next to my bed. You basically see here are my bags for my adventure bag. This is the full loadout that I use. This is my Discover backpack, which I've used from time to time when I need something around 15 discs. My adventure bag will hold 18 discs just down here alone. And I use the putter pocket area for other things. And this putter pocket, I typically put my smartphone when I'm out playing. And then right here you'll see my standard disc golf bag, where I usually have 9 or 10 discs in there. And then here's my original starter bag that I use, where I would carry up to 12 discs in there, but typically closer to 10. And of course I've got 3 possible caps I might wear anytime I go out and play. And then here you've got a little flight towel, and then underneath the flight towel, as well as all these here, these are all drivers, mostly foundlings and gifts to me that are well above my pay grade, like speed 11 and above, that I can't throw. And then we've got a 2 or 3 disc bag with a couple discs I intend to review in the future, and then some lawn whiskers, hammer, and nails that I'm going to use to set up a course later. But I just wanted to show you this before I go to my disc golf bag. This right here, what you're seeing, are essentially the 18 of my discs of my entire collection that I make available to me to throw whenever I go out onto a course. I have them listed here in this picture really by disc type: drivers at the top, mid-ranges in the middle, and putters at the bottom. These are also listed, generally speaking, in terms of stability. The discs on the left are the most stable for each disc type, and then as they go to the right, they go down towards the least stable. The only exception here in this image is the Dragon, the white disc at the top left. This is in this position because it's generally the last disc that I grab, and it's only used as a tool or utility disc for select shots near water hazards. So when I load these discs into my backpack, this is the order in which they go in as well, with the Dragon at one end, the back end, and then they're all loaded in order essentially, with the purple Aviar putter that's at the bottom right. That essentially goes in the rightmost end, and that basically fills the 18 or so slots within this backpack. Incidentally, I'm using OpenView as my image viewer, and now I'm going to go ahead and switch to my Chrome browser, and that's where I'm using Dark Reader, a plugin to use much of the screen to darken essentially much of what you're seeing here, so it's a little bit easier on the eyes. It won't affect this grid over here, but it will affect much of the rest of the screen. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about my 2 loadouts. My primary loadout is my standard bag loadout of about 10 discs, 9 or 10 discs. It's usually 9 discs unless I know that I'm going to play a course with water hazards, and if so, I'll just add my Hydra here to the mix. It goes in, it always carried in the bag anyways, but if there's no water hazard, I basically just take the Hydra out of the bag, leave it in my car, and that Aviar 3 that I have will essentially fill that role, for me. That said, the Adventure backpack is what I carry for certain challenges where I'm going to need my full selection with me to have the greatest range of shots that I need on any course. For example, if it's just Sean and I playing a course, I only need this smaller loadout. But if I'm playing a full card of 4 or even more people, I'll do something like, maybe a 2v2 doubles match or 3v3, whatever it is. I like to have everything that I could possibly need with me. And as you can see here with the Adventure backpack, there's 18 discs, 9 and 9. And most of the discs are somewhere between speed 2 and 8, with most of them being either a 3-speed, 5-speed, or 7-speed disc. The exceptions are, of course, from my Aviar for putting and my Dragon, which is, of course, the utility disc. This is actually fairly flippy, so it's just not reliable, plus the plastic isn't very tough. I only use this Dragon for throwing anything over 200 feet. If it's less than 200 feet or I'm putting anywhere near water, I'm always using my Hydra. It's just a more reliable disc to me than the Dragon. The Dragon is just too flimsy, and I can't afford to make it more useless than it is. I need to still be able to rely on it as a water driver. And then, of course, speaking to the drivers themselves, these are essentially what I do all my max distance throws. They're all basically speed 7 with the exception of my Leopard, which is a speed 6. And as you can tell, they basically range from overstable to stable or slightly understable. And let's talk about the Banshee, for example. This Banshee is like a Firebird to me. I throw it in the high 200s in terms of feet, maybe 300 when the planets align, and the Banshee is my meat hook for all these max distance drives with regard to what I can throw. And of course I can't throw this even close to 300 feet, but it does have a reliable ability to turn corners for me when I throw, and that's something that I really like with this Banshee, which I also bought in Champion plastic because it's the most stable plastic type and it really helps with its stability. The TeeBird, TL, and FD, they all run the gamut of overstable to stable for me, and I use these 3 based on wind conditions, and I try to essentially throw the same shot with these 3, but based on the wind and other environmental concerns, that's basically what I will use them for. If it's neutral wind, I will basically rely on the FD. If I've got a little bit of a headwind, I might use the TL, or a stronger headwind, I will use the TeeBird. The Leopard 3 is something I almost never use, in part because it's in Champion plastic, and Champion just isn't quite as grippy as Star plastic, even if it's slightly more overstable. So I basically rely on this Leopard as my primary driver for most of my max distance throws. But this basically gives me a full range of weapons for max distance drives, my max distance. Regarding the mid-ranges, as you can see, I also have a full range of discs here. These 2 RocX, the X3 and the 3, are fairly close to each other in terms of stability, but I wouldn't say either of these are meat hooks. These will minimize the chance for turn, but they won't stop it if I use too much anhyzer. So I primarily use these as wind fighters. The Shark3 and Atlas, both of these are great for straight upshots for me, and I classify these as reliable enough with enough torque prevention to largely go where I need them to go. The Mako3 is my absolute favorite mid-range, and I use that for all of my straight shots. The Foxbat I haven't really used yet, but I like having it with me because between the Mako3 and the Manta, I just like having this as an option. And the Manta, what can I say about this disc? It got me my first ace, especially on camera. It got me my longest sidearm throw to date, and it's just more glidey than the official stats tell you, but you do actually have to hyzer flip it in order to see it. But between the Manta and the Mako3, I have 2 discs that have helped me achieve so much growth for my sidearm. And this Mako3, I recently was able to get my greatest distance thrown ever with a mid-range with this disc. So can't say enough about these discs, and I hope the Foxbat sort of grows into a role of reliability that I can use with it. Lastly, the putt and approach discs, the putters. My Pig is my most reliable upshot disc. I can expect it to put the brakes on itself when I throw it really hard, and I know it won't go any further than a certain distance with it. And it very reliably fades for me, to even dumping sometimes, based on the conditions and how I throw it towards the end of the flight. This was the role my Hydra used to fill. But once I saw the pig at a local pro shop and I picked it up, I just knew I had to use that. And of course, I've got the Aviar 3 that has in large part filled the role of the Hydra in a lot of my upshots. But once I started using the pig, it has never left my bag. I always make sure to carry it with me. The Hydra, of course, is a water disc, but really it's a good approach disc as well. And any distance inside of 200 feet, at least as far as I'm concerned, it's reliable and predictable. That said, the Aviar 3 is the bomb, and I really like it. I especially enjoy it in the XT plastic that I have it in. XT is a bit tougher than DX, and it should last a lot longer. Also, this particular disc has a slightly longer rim than the Rhino that I used to use, and it's more stable relative to the Rhino. So if any of you may have seen my earlier videos, you'll have seen a purple Rhino that I used. But I used the heck out of that disc and beat it up over time, and quite frankly, it's no longer as stable. It's basically a straight flyer, but it's not as stable as I need it to be. So the Aviar 3 has now filled that role, and the Rhino has basically been put on the back burner for me. But this A3, the Aviar 3, is what I rely on now, even compared to the Hydra and the Rhino. So it fills a great role for me for upshots and approaches, most of them, and even some putts. And just recently I threw a side end from like 20, 25 feet, a sidearm putt into the basket with it, getting me a birdie and a win in a game. So this Aviar 3 has been a surprisingly good disc for me. But I will say the Hydra is a tiny bit more stable than the Aviar 3, and I wouldn't count this out. I don't just use this near water. I will still use it sometimes instead of the Aviar 3. But a lot of times I won't have the Hydra with me, and it's just the Aviar 3 all the way. And of course the Aviar, what can I say about it? This is my trusty putting putter. I can trust it for upshots and approaches within about 100 feet and in, but I rely on all the 3-speed discs really for anything past 100 feet. Or if I want to guarantee that the disc will slow down and stick better close to the landing spot, especially if I use hyzer. The Aviar, because it's in DX plastic, I try to use it for putting only. It's just not great at stopping short of where it lands. It can skip a bit, and it's very flighty or glidey, and I can trust it to make it to the basket if I can putt it right. And to wrap up, I want to show you what this standard bag looks like. You can see there's 10 discs here, 9 if you don't count the Hydra. But let's just show you that in and of itself. You can still see I have, in large part, the same general range that I do with the larger bag, but I have to basically, use more skill on my end. I basically have 3 fairways, 3 mids, and 3 putters, with of course this Hydra being an optional putter. And if you look at the flight pass, I pretty much see the same range of flight pass with half the discs. So I'll add the Adventure backpack back in. You can see the flights are all roughly the same. You take it out, I still have roughly the same range. I just have to use more skill, and I'm fine with using a lesser number of discs. It's less weight to carry, and I can basically adapt to using less discs to get what I want them to do. All right, so that is going to do it for this little video. I just wanted to kind of show you all the discs that I use, how I use them, and where they generally slot within my bag. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.